As the sun goes down, the city comes alive with gaiety and pleasure. There is plenty of fun. Miles of enjoyment are everywhere. But for the traffic, fun, enjoyment, or freedom are elusive phantoms. The trafficker has made sure the trafficked remain invisible. Phantoms themselves, hidden in plain view. Arsenals of threat, fear, shame, and guilt hold the victims captive. Christian Gearing, Educational Director for Florida Coalition Against Human Trafficking, provides community businesses and individuals with training on human trafficking. He brings awareness to statistics, signs, prevalence, and preventative methods for any industry at every level.
What are some of the myths of trafficking?
Probably. Myth number one is it's not happening in our area. That is the biggest misconception. People really think it doesn't happen here. The second one probably is it always foreigners. And that is not true. Statistics show that over 80% are US citizens.
So who are the trafficked?
Anybody and everybody can become a human trafficking victim, which again leads back to the earlier question as being a myth. Human trafficking really doesn't separate by gender, race, nationality, or anything as such, or age as such. It can be somebody who's younger, somebody who's older. We have had rescues of a female in domestic servitude of 68 years old. We've had rescues of a 6-year-old boy. There really isn't, it's any human being, to be honest with you. That really is the answer.
So Christian, what is your role with the coalition?
My role with the coalition, I have the privilege of being responsible for training and education. So I head up that department with some of our volunteers. We're all a volunteer-based organization, obviously. And I go out into the community to provide awareness with regard to human trafficking, that people are aware not only that human trafficking exists, what it means, what it is, and what some of the signs are that they might be looking for. Now, some of the training which I enjoy doing is, because of my background in hotel management and also the beauty industry, is actually training hotel staff. We focus mostly on front desk staff, also housekeeping staff, and food and beverage, so the bars, restaurants, so they know what they should be looking out for if they see somebody who may behave suspiciously. Now, we understand when we're training specific professions, they do their job. And unfortunately, sometimes they don't see things which are obvious to somebody who knows about human trafficking. Once they know about human trafficking, it'll ring a bell with them. Again, so Lynn mentioned earlier on, sometimes some of the victims are, especially for sex trafficking, they're being branded by their trafficker with usually a tattoo. Now, there are different types of tattoos that can be used. Now, if you see several victims with the same tattoo, that's usually a sign they belong to the same trafficker.
Dr. Nairuti Johnny, Associate Professor at Florida Gulf Coast University, teaches social workers to combat human trafficking, arming them with arsenals of knowledge and information. Dr. Johnny's students are manning the front lines of intervention, intercepting and redirecting victims to lives of freedom.
There's only one agenda behind enslaving another human being, and the motive is always profit. Whether it's sex trafficking, labor trafficking, domestic servitude, right? Someone's saving money, someone's making money. There's no other reason why a human being can be objectified as heavily as trafficked victims are. So it's as I'm sure you're aware, this is the second highest profit margin industry in the world. So profit drives this. There are several industries that drive this as well. But if I had to answer in one word, it would be profits. There are two types of victims that we see most commonly. One are foreign-born victims who are brought to this country. The other one are domestic minors. For domestic minors is we have higher concentration of those here. In terms of sex trafficking, labor trafficking, we have a higher concentration of international victims. So you have to break that down first. But when I talk about domestic minors, it's typically Caucasians, even African Americans, but typically Caucasians in this area. Age range is dropping. So now they say 10 years is the starting age, right, where the recruiting takes place. We have had isolated cases of elementary school recruitment where people have tried approaching as well. So I think the age is dropping. Primarily, who do they look for, right? I firmly believe now, having been in this field for over, let's say, 13, 14 years now. What they look for is isolation and vacuum, and that vacuum comes from within, right? Biggest thing that traffickers look for is that vacuum, right? Whether it is to fool somebody and commit a fraud, right? Whether it is coercion, where we have all these Romeo Johns coming and saying, oh, you're so beautiful, but who is that beautiful girl out of 3 or 4 that are walking? It's always the quiet one, it's always the shy one, it's always the one that gets less attention and wants that. So human trafficking is not an issue that you can look at in isolation. It may seem like it can be looked at in isolation because it only happens to a few individuals. I'm most likely not going to be one of those people. These are minutes we played with. In reality, no. Human trafficking is a community issue because, first of all, the people who are being trafficked could be you, it could be anybody, right? So the community needs to be aware of its risks. Exactly. Once there is a trafficked victim within the community, the person has gone through a life of enslavement for X number of years. You have rescued that individual. That individual is going to be coming back to the community, right? Mm-hmm. So in the process, if there is no sensitivity or understanding of what the person has witnessed or gone through, right? Not only you are, as a society, what should I say, looking at it from a different lens and impacting that one life, but think about the family members that had to deal with that individual, the friends of the person that had to deal with that individual. At a larger scale, there are mental health consequences, right? So the person who was a former victim of trafficking is now working with, let's say at McDonald's or at whatever job it is, right? Now, are those individuals aware of what happened to this individual? Are they aware of the health issues that the person has dealt with? Are they aware of the mental health issues? Because they are going to see, when the episodes happen, right? The anger, the outburst, you are going to witness those things. So how do you create a healthy community where there's inclusion, right? There people from diverse background, including victims who have suffered immensely, are looked at in a very positive light. So the worry is not, in my opinion, the worry is not as much of how do you save the community from the bad world of trafficking, but the real worry is how do you prepare the community to embrace the heroes who have survived, slavery.
Another day begins. People head to work. Countless thousands remain unaware that human trafficking is happening all around us and rarely recognized. Do you know the signs?